Hello, and welcome back to Teather Time, where we are going to talk. Tether time for talking about things.
Would you like to do that again, more smooth?
Sure.
You're trying to do the intro. Go for it.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to Tether Time, where we talk about things.
That first intro was good. You just did it in a stupid way.
But I want a meme. Okay. Hello, and welcome to Tether Time. I'm Eleanor. This is. Are you going to say your name?
Oh, you want me to say my name? Yeah. I'm Frederica. Hello.
We talk once a week about productivity and stuffs.
Yeah. Toxic productivity.
Yeah. We have a slightly different format this week that we're going to try out.
Yeah.
Which is, instead of coming with a thing to talk about and then just like giving a weird TED talk to each other, we're going to try coming with questions to ask the other person. And hopefully that'll be more of a conversation and less of me talking Frederica's ears off.
I feel like it was me talking your ears off.
Oh, that's
the episodes.
That's good to know. That makes me feel like
it was pretty even 50-50 split. Not gonna lie.
Nice. Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can do. What questions should I ask you? What did I write down? Okay, so this is a bit of an arc I've been on today.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, wait, hang on. Wait. I'm supposed to ask you what you've been doing with your week.
Oh yeah, that's the format, isn't it? That's how the intro ends.
That's what we do.
Oh wait, okay, we just need a short intermission while I fix.
Well, you turn off your Discord notations. Notations.
For some reason, this laptop is still playing sound through the speakers. Talk for me to make sure I can still hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, I can still hear you. That's so weird. For some reason, this laptop. I'm not. So side tangent. My laptop charger broke this week, so I'm on my mum's very old 2018 laptop, and it has some weird features like the fact that Bluetooth headphones, when it connects to it, one sound volume they sound awful, and another sound channel they sound amazing. And I've just discovered for some reason it still plays system sounds through the speakers, which is just like, why? Why would you want that? Why is that a feature, laptop? I'm wearing headphones. Want the sound through my headphones, please. Anyway. On the podcast now, I must be zen. Yeah, I have. So I think, what should I start with?
What have you done this week?
What have I done this week? The most important thing, I finished building a second brain, and I have many thoughts on it now, but I've already gone over those a lot of times. So I've got my big obsidian page of notes on it that I want to use. And I've just started rereading, getting things done, and I had this epiphany yesterday. So. You know how we think I'm ADHD and we think you're ADHD and we're like slowly going on this arc?
Yeah.
I had this realization where I was like, okay, I'm no longer just like, I think I'm ADHD. I am confident because I watched this video about toxic productivity and ADHD, and it finally made toxic productivity click for me. Because I've always heard toxic productivity mentioned as this like buzzword where it's like, hi, you're being like, I've never had someone explain to me what does it mean, toxic productivity. And this guy explained it as like, as an ADHD person, toxic productivity is like this feeling that what you need to do is just more work. If you just more work it will happen. If you just crunch, if you just have this problem, you just work on it for a long period of time, it will just be better. With no actual, and the encouragement of just working more hours, which is just not helpful, particularly if you're ADHD when your working is more tiring anyway. If you start if you're like, oh, someone else puts 6 hours a day in, I guess I have to put 6 hours a day in, you know, like, and then he went over this guy, I can't remember his name, but I'll definitely link it, because I've got the link here. Does it have the name? I don't remember. It doesn't have the name on my notes. But yeah, I can find the link and I'll put it in the description. But he gives this idea that, like, it's from another book that he's referencing, but I got the idea from him, of like, as an ADHD person, there's the 4 C's of motivation, and they are captivate, create, complete, and compete. Complete and compete are like the same words to my little dyslexic brain. But the idea is that captivate is about finding something that like is really interesting and like captivates your interest. So like for me, editing, I can always edit. I can always find motivation to edit because I just enjoy it. It's just fun. And you probably have a similar thing with something to do with your degree, because I know you enjoy that.
Yeah.
But and then create is about doing something new. It's another reason I find editing interesting. But like anytime there's the shiny new thing, like making your Obsidian page, or like a new project is always more interesting than the old one. Or normally is. Compete is like working against someone. So I don't know if you get intrinsic motivation when someone is like, you can't do that, or you won't have time to do that, and I'm like, watch me. Like, I can always remember when a teacher's like, oh, you can go home when you finish this project, but I don't think you'll finish it today. I'm like, little baby Frederica in college was like, watch me, and then we'd finish the project faster because I suddenly had a load of motivation. And that kind of erupts into complete, which is about having a due date, like you know that motivation
Deadline
when you
motivation.
you wake up, you're like, okay, yeah, you know, you've got to do it the next day because you've got to do it the next day. There's no other option. I never, like, I was like, oh, this explains so much of why traditional productivity doesn't work for me. Because a lot of neurotypical productivity advice, the really neurotypical bits, but just don't work for me. Like, the one he really pushes forward is a lot of productivity advice is like, if you have 5 things and one of them is hard and one of them is fun, do the hard one first to get it out of the way, because then you can get on to the fun one. But if I try and do that, I just don't do any of them.
Yeah.
Whereas today, I was like, you know what? Instead of pushing editing till the end of the day and trying to get the boring stuff done, the first thing I did when I got up this morning is I edited the last episode of the podcast, because, you know, the deadline for editing the podcast is I'm filming another one. I don't want to build up that backlog. So yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going to get this out of the way in the morning. And then I've had so much energy all day because I did something fun. My brain's already stimulated. I already feel like I've made progress in the day. So if I don't do anything, I'm just like, cool, I haven't done anything. This is fine. There's no... I've already got the most important task of the day done, which I've also enjoyed a lot. Whereas, like, I don't know, like, just doing something fun, that was, like, mind-boggling for me to have never considered this before. Because I've always heard, do the hard one first. Do the hardest, most resource... Like, do the most resourceful thing, like, the most rewarding thing. And I'm just like, okay, cool. This is useful to know. And he just, like, listed, like, 10 ideas for things I want to try. And I'm like, wow, this was so helpful. This was my pivot, like having a sense of what toxic productivity is, because I don't know if you've ever actually thought about what does toxic productivity actually mean.
So I think you're talking about a completely different thing to what people talk about when they're talking about toxic productivity.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this might also be a different thing which we can also call... Like, I'm not saying this is... I don't really know what you're saying is toxic productivity in this scenario. I know toxic productivity as the concept that, like, everything you do in your life should be producing something. So, you do knitting. You should turn that into an Etsy business because it needs to be producing money.
Yeah.
And so to me, when I hear people... So that's when particularly in lockdown, people were talking about toxic productivity in the context of, like, feeling like, oh, you've got all this extra free time. You should be doing something practical and productive with it. Because otherwise, like, this concept that every part of our life needs to be producing something measurable or with monetary value, or, like, just, like, a physical thing that you can see. Like, that you can't just do something because it's fun and do it badly and then stop. Like, that there has to be some kind of goal that you're achieving, otherwise your time is wasted, and then that makes people feel like they can't do fun stuff. That's what I've heard people using the word toxic productivity for, the phrase.
Yeah, I mean, that one's... I've only ever heard toxic productivity used as, like, a buzzword, like, oh, that YouTuber's pushing toxic productivity. Like, someone in a comment will be like, haha, I used to like you, but now you're just toxic productivity. Or, like, just a vague concept of, like, bad productivity advice. But I'd never heard it as, like... It just really clicked for me with the, like, oh, you're, like... The concept of it being like, oh, if you've got a problem, you should just work harder. And the solution to the problem being working harder, which is a really toxic mindset.
Yes.
Because I've been told my entire life I should just work harder, and I have continuously tried to work harder, it just never works for me, ever. Like...
Yeah. Well, I think there's something so valuable for the mindset of do the thing, and then when it's done, stop. You know, like,
Yeah.
I really admire people who are able to go, okay, I'm going to do the work that I need to do and then I'm going to stop, because I have
Yeah.
problems with perfectionism and trying to do everything all at once, all of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting that because I'm just started today. I've listened to the first chapter a little bit. I've been really listening to Getting Things Done, which is of course like if you're watching a productivity podcast, I'm assuming you at least know the Getting Things Done system at some degree. And it's really interesting because right at the start, one of the first things he says is like, getting things done is not about harder work. Productivity is not about more work, but that's how everyone puts it. It's like, oh, you can do productivity, that'll mean you'll get through everything you want to in your life. And it's like, no, it's about just getting through the stuff you're getting through now, but faster so you've got more time to relax, not about creating more time for work.
Yes. Give me a second, I'm taking off my jumper. Oh no, my headphones! There we go.
What a segment.
Oh, now I can see my Star Trek earrings. That's what everyone wants. Look at these.
Nerdy.
The beauty.
See, my earrings are boring. They're not as interesting. Yeah, big side tangent.
Yeah. I feel like that to me is like, I don't think I would describe that as toxic productivity, but I do know what you're talking about, where people are just like, oh, if you just work harder. But it's the same sort of attitude of the same kind of people who are like, oh, well, if you just stop having Starbucks, you can afford a house. What's it used?
I mean, not having Starbucks is a like genuine way to afford things because Do you know the markup on Starbucks coffee?
Oh,
do you know how much that coffee and time is actually worth?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, but like if you're in a financial position where you're like able to buy a Starbucks every day, also that stereotype of buy a Starbucks, I think comes from the US, and Starbucks is a lot cheaper over there, relatively compared. Like
No, it's actually like more expensive. It's very similar price. It's not that different to the UK.
When I was in the US and Canada, it was more affordable for me to buy hot drinks than it was when I'm here.
I mean, that's because they don't pay their staff, but like...
Yes. But like, I was able to justify like going out and buying like hot drinks and like bubble tea way more, which was annoying because then I did that for a year and then I was like, I want to go to cafes all the time and I can't. I mean, it depends on like the brand and stuff, but my personal experience was that it was more affordable because it's generally more affordable to eat out there, relative to here. So I think that stereotype partly comes from that. But anyway, going back on topic, I feel like that oh, just work harder is the same kind of thing of like, oh, well, if you just work harder, you'll become a millionaire. Like it's people trying to buy into some desperation. But yeah, well, definitely. I think productivity is all about trying to work smarter.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just always really dangerous whenever you get into that mindset of like, oh, I just need to work more hours. And it's like, actually, you're probably working the number of hours you are able to work at that time. And trying to increase that tends to just mess up your mental health pretty badly.
Yeah.
Because when you've got the energy to work more hours, I get through so much work at work because I've just got more energy, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to do that forever.
Yeah.
And it also... I can't remember if it was that video or another one I watched referenced this idea of it's a psychological... I don't know if this is an actual psychological concept or a thing. I don't know how well referenced this video because I can't remember which one it was. So take this with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. It's definitely an idea. It's like the concept of like the superhero complex where you like assign superpowers to your future self. So you're like, oh, I'm too tired to do this now, but I'll do it tomorrow. And you're like, and then if you think about that logically for 1 second, because I do it loads of the time. If you think that logically for 1 second, you're like, why will future me have more energy than current me? I mean, it's different if it's midnight and you're like, oh, I've just remembered this thing I need to do. I'll write it down and do it tomorrow. But if you've been not doing a task all day and you go, I'm too tired now, I'll do it tomorrow. Just think about that for like 1 second. And I actually, and I was like, oh, that's a good one. That's a one to watch out for now.
Well, something I've noticed that I do is I will like, I'll be tired, but also I get this like, I have a constant feeling that I don't have enough time to do anything. Don't really know where that one's come from. Should probably talk to my therapist about it. But like, this constant feeling of like, I don't have enough time. Oh, I don't have enough time for doing that now. I'll do it later. And I feel like that all the time. So I won't feel any different later. So I guess for me, it's not about energy per se, but it's the same kind of idea. So I'll do things like I'll take off my cardigan, I'll put my clothes away, but because other items of clothing are faster to roll up because I can do it in my hands, I'll just do them and I'll put them away. But a cardigan I have to put onto my bed so that I can fold in the sides. And therefore I'll leave my cardigans all in a pile. But then obviously that drains me more because every day I'm looking and I'm being like, oh, I really need to tidy up that pile. And then it's a pile. Like, it's a stitch and tie saves 9 situation when I could just fold up this one cardigan, or in a week's time I'm going to have to fold up 5 cardigans. And trying to tell myself you do have enough time, you do have enough energy, do it now.
I really I heard this tip from one of the videos. It was the second ADHD video I watched by the guy who wrote Second Brain. It was a video specifically, it was called building a second brain, tips from ADHD people, where I resonated. There was one lady on there, I was like, I want to watch her stuff. She was talking about things and I was like, oh, this is my life experience right here, what you're relaying. But she, not her, but someone else mentioned, he'll always put a podcast on to do any task, like taking out the bins or doing the washing up for 2 seconds, and my hair just fell in my face mid-sentence there. That's pretty epic. But anything like that, because otherwise he'll get bored, and it's not something you should feel stupid for doing. Sometimes I feel really stupid for putting on a podcast for 30 seconds, and then someone's like, the podcast is like, you should listen to this properly, give us our full attention. I'm like, I'm giving you my full attention for a minute and a half when I'm really bored. Don't know.
Yeah. Really, although I think that's interesting because I do the putting on podcasts for a 30-second task, but then that means that I end up a 30-second task becomes a 5-minute task because I get out my phone and I'm like, oh, I've got a message, I'll reply to that, and then I have to open my podcast app and then I choose my podcast and then I put in my headphones, and all of that adds up, and then I do the opposite at the end of the 30-second task. And if I just got up and did the task, it would just happen faster.
This is when, Elder, this is when, and this is going to sound like a sponsor segment, but the reason I love having Audible on my phone is because I always have a book ready on Audible, and you don't have to open the app to start the audiobook with the widget. So I can just, if I want to listen to something, I just have to load up my phone, go to the home screen, just press play. And it's always saved there.
On my previous podcast app, there was a widget, but the widget didn't always work. You had to have already opened the app once that day for it to work.
Spotify widget is like that, but the Audible widget is not. The Audible widget just
good.
Opens and works. It's amazing. I love it.
That's really good. Yeah.
I have a question, though. It's actually on my list that I've just realized that we can segue to. You mentioned just now you'd see messages on your phone. I want to know, how do you use notifications on your phone? Because it's something I've really noticed different people use differently, and I have my opinions, but I want to know, what's your notification setting default?
So I went through a change in the way that I use my notifications a little while ago, because I used to have I have notifications switched on for most things. Just stuff that I don't care about is what I've got notifications switched off for. So Facebook, just hit myself in the face. Facebook, they're all off. Annoying notifications from TikTok being like, oh, have you checked out this video? They're all switched off. And then I have all Messenger.
If you have marketing notifications on, you're just stupid. Go
into your... It's so easy. I'm begging you. Go into your settings and change them. You don't need the TikTok video suggestions in your life.
I mean, I can't talk because I only just started turning off the marketing. I just started unsubscribing from marketing emails. I've been getting to my email address for so many years. I've only just told me I can just unsubscribe from them all. If I don't want the email, I should just not receive the email.
Yes. Emails make me so angry. So I have all things turned on, but this year went into because I previously had sounds on, and then I started having more people contacting me by Messenger and things. Once I went to uni particularly, and I was in more group chats and that sort of thing. Used to have my sound on, then I had it completely switched off. Didn't really do not disturb either. I found that too inconvenient. So now I had the bright idea that I can just turn off the notification sounds. So I now have notifications come into my phone, but they're all silent unless there's something that I want to or need to hear about. So Teams messages from work, notification sound. But Messenger things, no notification sound. And I also have, recently I discovered that on my phone you can set up, it's got a feature called Conversations where it can make the notification like system separate for conversations from a particular person. So for the messages I get from my boyfriend, they come up with his Facebook profile picture in the bar, which I really like because then I know if it's from him or someone else. If it's from him, I'll be like, oh, I'll be super happy to message him. I'll reply to that, but other people I might ignore. Yeah, that's my messenger system. It's not actually as complicated as the amount of time it took for me to get there.
Blame the laptop. I've just... oh no, I can't open the door yet. In 10 minutes I'll be able to open this door and it'll be fine. But, no,
because you were saying about how your system is different. You have all notifications turned off, right?
I am... so I have just gone... I now have... when on Do Not Disturb, I get no notification. So when I'm asleep, I want nothing. I don't care. Because I'm of the opinion that if someone dies, I want a good night's sleep. Because I'm not going to get another one for a while. So I want this one to last. Like, the chances of me being able to help is very minimal. I'm like, what situation am I the person who's going to save someone's life? It just ain't happening. Yeah, so if someone dies, I don't care because I want my sleep. But when I have sound off, I don't want notifications from social media because my feeling is if I want to talk to someone, I will check social media to talk to them, and I want it to be an active decision. And I find my entire existence is about making social media a more active choice because so much of it is really passive. Have you ever just found yourself on social media? You know that feeling? And that was when I was like, that's when I turned off notifications because otherwise I would just see that Instagram notification, click on it. I don't chat to a friend. I want to chat to someone. I want it to be a really active decision. I like that I can leave the apps in the messaging section and they just stay in there.
Yeah.
And so I have all media apps off. So the only real notifications I get them from my calendar. And this is a topic for later, but I've just gone back to a to-do app. And at the moment I'm getting notifications from TikTok as well, which is super useful.
Yeah.
I've just realized the power of... I've discovered, because last time I was using a to-do app, I had notifications on. The power of getting a notification and it being a reminder, and you're not used to getting notifications. So my brain's like, ooh, notification. And I'm like, oh, I need to do that.
Yeah.
And I've twice a day, it's reminded me to do really silly chores that I'd have forgotten about otherwise. So I'm like, oh, this is so helpful.
Yeah. I personally find that if I don't have notifications switched on, I'm actually more likely to waste time on my phone because I'll keep checking it to see if there's a notification.
Yeah.
But I don't know whether I should try it. Well, so also, fun thing, my phone has recently had an update and now has a bunch of new features. One of which is a work mode, life mode thing, where you can switch it into work mode and you can set up... because I used to have it set up to go on to Do Not Disturb, for example, so I have a part-time job. So during my part-time job, it would automatically go into Do Not Disturb. But the problem with that is that A, under the new settings, which I can't seem to change on my phone, you don't get any notifications in Do Not Disturb, which I don't like. But B, and more importantly, what was I saying? Yeah, you can switch into Do Not Disturb, but that has problems. But with work mode, you just get the work notifications, which I find really handy for being this is work brain. So I now have it set up for that, and I can use it when I'm just studying as well, so that I don't see the notifications. But because I know I'll go back to them eventually, and when I go into it, if I try and open that messenger, it'll be like, you're in work mode, remember? And so those kind of things I think I find more helpful. And I don't mind, because I don't think I go through all my messages and I reply to them. That's fine. My issues are things like scrolling through Instagram. So yeah.
But don't you find that the notification pings, you want to immediately check it?
No.
See, I hate having the little white dots of notifications, so I always want to deal with them
So
immediately.
sometimes, and it can be a slight anxiety thing. Well, more what can happen is as an anxiety thing, I can feel really overwhelmed. But even if I don't see the dot, well, I don't have the little dots in the corner, but even if I don't see the notification, knowing that the messages are in the Messenger app can make me feel overwhelmed. So that doesn't necessarily, the notifications kind of don't make any impact on that. But what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll get rid of the notifications I don't want to reply to immediately. Or I'll leave the notification, because that's the other problem. If I don't, I go one of two ways. I either end up going onto the Messenger app and being like, checking constantly to see if someone's, because I want attention. Or I don't check it at all and I just forget. And then I never reply to anything. And that can also be a problem if people are actually trying to get hold of me to be like, come hang out with me. So...
What's your thought on the little red circle on app icons on the homepage or something? What's your thought of the little red circles with numbers in them?
So that's when I said the little dot. I don't have that. I don't think my phone came with...
Those are awful.
Yeah, I don't think my phone came with it switched on, but I would find that quite stressful. Just like knowing.
The existential dread of if you know when you see someone's phone and they've got 1,000 of them, like we're on call in Discord. I have friends who don't check their Discord pings. And it's offensive just seeing like 999 plus notifications. I'm like, please.
I'm like that for Discord, but I am only in big servers and people aren't actually trying to talk to me personally. I don't understand how people can do that.
But Eleanor, you can, if you're on a big server, on Discord you can mute the notifications so you don't get pinged.
I know, well, the notifications don't come through to me, but I don't mind having it with it so that it's like, still, I'm fine with Discord because I just don't really use it very much. So that's not really a problem for me. I don't understand how people can do that because I feel guilty when I don't reply to people.
It's when you see the 1,000, so sometimes you just see all the notifications, you're like, I'm scared, I want to clear this for you.
Yeah, emails especially, I'm like, come on. Half of those are just like, telling you to buy things.
Do you want... I got halfway through my email backlog 2 days ago.
I just got told to put the bins out on my phone. Left.
Eleanor, I have 500 unread emails in my inbox.
I can't believe you have the audacity to go on at people for having loads of Discord notifications being like, I have 500 unread emails.
In my defense, the issue was I stopped practicing inbox zero, and then I have looked at every email in my inbox. I don't know, for me, Outlook does not know when I've read an email the way I know when I've read an email. I read a lot of emails that Outlook does not think I've read, and so...
That has never been a problem for me.
It's a constant issue. Well, it's partly for me, is like, if I get like a this is the thing, it's because I haven't unsubscribed from marketing emails, so that is approximately when I went through my emails the other day. I went through 1,000 emails, got it down to 500. Of that 500 I went through, approximately 3 were actionable.
Yeah.
I get no useful email, so it's never a priority.
Yeah.
Because my uni email, I got uni email where there was some stuff of value, but even then, you get spammed on your uni email. I don't understand
uni emails,
why...
well, it varies, but Sheffield, you were able to like go in and... I just said them. Good lord. I'm determined to tell everyone where I live.
You want to dox yourself, yeah. No, it's like... No, my issue was that I got so many emails from Moodle that you needed on because there was no...
Yeah.
My issue was that I was in effectively 3 departments, so I was getting 3 departments worth of emails. Then I was getting the disability service emails. Then I was getting because you're in LUMS, you get double careers emails, and then you get student union email, and you'd get college emails. So like I was getting like quadruple the standard email rate for like a normal student, and it sucked.
What's quite nice about being a master's student now that I'm on the project bit is that the like email load is quite thin, and the most of the emails I'm getting are just from my supervisor or like my supporting person being like, can I come into the lab on this day? So
Yeah.
It's very nice and chill.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway.
Yeah, exam season, it got a lot better. It was just early on, it was awful.
We've got off topic. What were we talking about?
No, I don't think we're off topic. I feel like this was the natural conclusion of that conversation topic about notifications. I just went through to emails. That's actually a question. This is a really boring question.
Okay.
But I'm always intrigued by this. What do you do with your email? Are you like a note inbox zero? Are you like inbox zero?
Oh yeah, I have no idea what inbox zero is. You said that, and I don't know what that is.
So there's two buzzwords there. There's inbox zero is the idea that you should aim to have no emails in your inbox.
Ah.
So the idea is that you get your emails and then you sort them into, does this email need to be saved somewhere? Does this email require replying to? Do I need to reply to it now? Do I add it to my to-do system? Do I take this information from my email and put it into my second brain? All that stuff. And then the concept of one touch is that should happen with one thing. You should see the email and you should deal with the email right then and there.
Interesting. So I think that with my personal email, I lean towards inbox zero, but I'm not religious about it because, frankly, with my personal email, it isn't worth the time.
No one is. No one actually is religiously inbox zero.
So,
it's just the aim. It's a theoretical constant.
Yeah. I will get an email. My email notifications aren't working on my phone at the moment, and that's super annoying because that's how I deal with all my emails. I get an email notification and I go, do I need to delete this, or do I need to move it somewhere, or do I need to deal with it right now? Or is it just a thing that can just hang around in my inbox and then I'll sort it out later down the line?
Yeah.
With uni emails, I think basically what I do is I leave them in my inbox until they've been dealt with, except for things like train tickets. So I have tickets, I have a folder specifically for that. Shopping, I have folder specifically for that because I don't need it cluttering up my inbox. And also tickets, particularly, I want to be able to find quickly. So I put that in a special folder. So yeah, that's how I do my emails.
Interesting. What about uni emails? Because you said that was personal.
So uni emails, as I was saying that, I realised I do actually do the same thing. It's just that I don't get anywhere near as close to zero in my uni emails, which is if it's something that needs to be dealt with or that I might care about, I leave it in my inbox. And then I periodically go through and I clear all the crap out the bottom of my inbox. But anything, it's I reply to this email, it's an ongoing conversation, or it's something that I might want to do later. So I'm on the survey mailing list. So sometimes a survey will come through and I'll be like, oh, that would be quite interesting, I'll do it later. So then I leave it unread. If I want to do something with it, I either flag it or leave it unread, depending on what it is. And then once I've dealt with it, I either delete it or it goes into a folder. I try and delete everything wherever possible. I only keep things if I think they might be important. Yeah.
Official.
I'm quite brutal with my emails.
Okay, Eleanor, I've got one more question for you, but I want to save it.
Oh.
What questions do you have for me?
Oh, okay. So, the thing that I wanted to talk to you about, because I think this is something interesting, is effective rewards systems. I've made that up. I can be a business podcaster.
I have opinions on this.
Yeah. So, and the reason that I think this is an interesting thing to talk about is this is something that I find very difficult and there's different aspects to this. There's the fact that I tend towards being quite critical of myself, and therefore I have a tendency to use beating myself up but that doesn't work. That doesn't get me to do anything. I just don't do the thing because I feel sad. So my brain thinks that'll be effective, but it isn't. So then I'm like, well, I need a reward, but then I have the problem of either the reward is not compelling enough, or the reward is compelling, but it's so compelling I just do it anyway. I'll be like, I'll buy myself a hot drink if I do this work. And then I'll be like, I really want it. And then I'll buy it anyway. Or if I don't get it, then I beat myself up about it. So I have not found a way to effectively reward myself for doing work. And
so this came up in my toxic...
I thought that, because when you were saying that stuff at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is so funny, because this is exactly what I wanted you to talk about.
So I've literally, Eleanor, just to remind you that you should build yourself a second brain, in the time you were talking, I found my note, which is the transcript of the YouTube video, and then I have searched the
no, you've frozen!
the call died.
I was going to say something!
The call died. Did it?
Yes, I was going to tell you, because I now have a second brain. I used it the other day, and I wanted to tell you because I thought you'd be proud of me. Because I now think of it as a second brain, I was watching a Critical Role video where 3 people who've done game mastery for Critical Role were having a chat, and they were saying a bunch of things, and I was like, oh, this would be a really good tip. And then I was like, I can write it down in the DM tips section of my Notion.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah, 1 second. I'm going to tell you the quote I just found, but I'm going to open the door first so that...
So the Wi-Fi can go up the stairs?
The Wi-Fi... Because as we all know, Wi-Fi is in fact blocked by doors.
Yes.
Like, I don't understand that. Is that an actual thing? Because it feels like it's an actual thing.
I have no idea. I've heard people say that they feel it works better. I am not convinced. I'm highly skeptical.
Oh yeah, I've got an extra bar of Wi-Fi now. That's good. Yeah, so...
I'm clearly wrong.
So the quote from the video, this might be a bit weird reading out because it's an AI's transcription of the transcript.
Just go for it.
It's a bit dodgy. But it's neurotypicals are motivated by importance and reward and consequence. And
I will never know.
Really
I will never know how to
motivated in the
motivate
same
myself.
way for people with ADHD. Yeah, did the call died for a second?
Yes.
I saw her.
There we go.
These aren't really motivating in the same way for people with ADHD. Like, we understand something is important, and we obviously love rewards. Like, if we do something and get a reward at the end, that's great. That's great, you know. Potentially build a new... We understand something is important, but we obviously love rewards. Like, if we do something and get a reward, that's great. That's great way to potentially build a new habit. But if you tell us there's like a big reward at the end of the road, that doesn't increase the want to do it. Like, the difference for me between the motivation of I can do this thing for 1 square of chocolate and I can do this for an entire chocolate bar are the exact same. So it just doesn't work because bigger projects aren't intrinsically motivating because there's more work to do with them. So I think what it is rewards don't work when you try to scale the reward with the project, but they're not a massive motivating factor for me. So they work really well for small scale things, like an hour of work equals chocolate is a very constant thing where I can choose to put the amount of work in I want to, and it kind of rewards me. It gives me constant reward. Whereas if it's you need to do 5 hours, you need to do 5 hours work and we'll give you £10, I'd rather get £1 for every hour's work. You know, that's how it feels to me.
I think maybe part of it for me is also that it depends on how emotionally charged not doing the thing is. Because if I don't do the exercise, I just don't get the £5, and that's fine. I don't care if that doesn't happen. Although with the cost of living rise, I'm starting to care, which is truly depressing. But if I don't do work, I feel bad about myself. So the reward, I guess, isn't necessarily doing anything because I'm still I'm dangling a carrot in front of the donkey's nose, but the donkey's far more concentrated on the whip.
So what I'd say is I think it's less the reward that is motivating in this case, but I think it's us competing against ourselves, because it's if I've got a challenge, it's not that I'm going to get a reward, it's just that I've got these 3 tick boxes to fill in mentally.
Yeah, do you mean with my exercise thing? That is...
Yeah, you're not... Are you motivated by the bubble tea? Or are you motivated by the fact that you've only got one more exercise to do, and then it's just the exercise. It's the challenge of doing it 3 times a week.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the challenge. Also, it's a very easy challenge because I already do swing class once a week, swing dance class once a week, and I thought I'd better specify that for the good people of the internet. I do swing dance. My swing dance class once a week, and then I do swing dance social dancing once a week. And I always do those things, and I love them. So then I only have to find one other thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's if I literally just do 20 minutes of Pilates, I get £5. And it's not necessarily something... It's not even necessarily that I'm I want to buy something with that £5. And I'm going to be deprived of it if I don't have that money. Because to be honest, if I get to the end of the term and I've overspent, I'll just give myself that money I didn't spend because I'm not that fussed about it. Because at that point, it doesn't matter that I haven't done the exercise. So I guess it is just more the challenge
It's
and
because, think about it, it's the first two ticks of that is the captivate. You love swing dance, you were captivated by swing dance, you want to do swing dance, that's great. And then it's complete. It's just, I want to complete this task, which is, those are both neurodiverse motivating factors.
It's not complete, because I don't care if I don't complete the 3, but it is...
No, it's not that you don't care if you don't complete it, it's just, is it not satisfying to complete something? Just
yes,
for
but
the sake of completing it.
For this, it isn't. For this, I don't care. Because I've not actually completed, because I could always do more exercise.
I think you're, but you're not completing the goal of exercise the perfect amount. You're completing the goal of exercise.
But I don't. I know what you mean, but that completeness feeling when I've ticked everything off my to-do list or I submit something, I don't get that when I get that final £5.
Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely the challenge, and it definitely isn't the money, because sometimes, in fact, quite frequently, I forget to give myself the money.
Yeah.
Even if I'm going to do this and I'm going to get that £5. I think you're right. I think it's more the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm earning something.
The one I want to try at the moment is I want to try gamifying housework, right? So I saw this idea.
This is how I gamified.
Okay, this is that's a good shot. How I gamify housework, but I saw this idea that you say in a week you want to score 10 points of housework. So what you do is that you give different housework tasks points. So for me, say I enjoy cooking a meal, so we'd give cooking a meal 2 points. I hate cleaning a toilet, so I would give it 5 points. I might even give it 8 points. I just if I clean the toilet, that's I don't have to do anything else that week. That's a whole week. So it might be cooking is 2 points, washing up is a point, putting a wash on is a point, taking a wash in from the washing line is a point. And then over the week, you just add things to a system, and if you're really lucky, you have an app that gives you a toolbar where it gives you gives you a progression bar, and that way you can it's just a way of gamifying the process of doing housework,
That sounds
And so
really
for
fun.
me, the reason, and I suddenly realised, what would make that amazing system when living at home is, okay, on the back end, I've got this system. On the front end, mother sees me doing housework, and she might, this is a very computer science way of looking at it, but she might give inputs to me that say, I want you to do blank task more. So then all I'd have to do is I wouldn't have to use my brain and think, I want to do this task more. I just go into my system and I give myself more points for doing that task for, say, a 2-week period until mother is satisfied.
Yeah.
So say washing up is 1 point, and then she's like, I wish you did the washing up more. So I just up it to 2 points. And then if she still doesn't think I'm doing the washing up enough, I up it to 3 points until I'm happy and I'm just doing it enough naturally. I mean, that could lead to point inflation, not gonna lie. but
I think actually I've just realised what the problem is with me thinking of it as I need to give myself rewards. Rewards don't work. Having a physical thing that I am handed at the end of completing a task, especially if I have to hand it to myself, just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
But if I make the task itself a reward, and obviously doing a task that I like is already a reward, but all the things that you just said about making it a competition or gamifying it or whatever, that then becomes the reward. I mean, that's how I got myself to do housework, is by when I got into podcasts. If I listen to a podcast, if I go, oh, yay, doing the washing up is an excuse to listen to Critical Role, then I'm going to do it.
If you ever read the book Atomic Habits, one of the ways he says to build up a habit is to reframe the habit from I have to do this thing to if I do this thing, I can do. So, if I do the washing up, I can listen to a podcast instead of I have to do the washing up.
Yeah. And that's why, because I think it's really interesting. I've recently started doing Duolingo. I've also recently started trying to meditate. And I know meditating is really good for me, but I really struggle to maintain a habit of doing it. And one of the things that I find slightly frustrating, so I use Headspace, and Duolingo obviously has a really compelling streak system. Headspace also has a streak system, but it's nowhere near as compelling. And I completely understand why they haven't put it as the forefront of the app, because they don't want to make sad people feel sadder if they're not completing their streak. But for me, having the compulsion of doing the streak is a really good way for me to keep on top of that.
Get a physical habit tracker. like a real one in the real world
I-
with tick boxes.
I downloaded one on Notion and I haven't figured out how to use it. And that's really annoying me.
Just make your Eleanor. It would be very. I'm telling you now. I think it would be relatively. How hard would it?
It's
I don't
the
think
having
Notion
the
would be
like setting up the
Notion-
repeating of it. It would be
Notion wouldn't be fun to do a habit tracker through because the repetition on Notion sucks.
yeah. Well, that's why I've downloaded one where someone has programmed it for me, but I haven't their like explanation of how to use it is not especially clear. It's
I'd say just
yeah.
do you not own a physical calendar anywhere in your house where you can just put you can just put like
I got rid of all my
right,
physical
look,
calendars. I'm
when
on
you come
the
over-
net. I'm in the cloud. I don't
Well,
need
just-
these
I feel
lowly physical
I think
paper
habit
things.
tracking is a great excuse for paper because it's so like I like the physical seeing the build up.
My other concern is that if I don't do it, I'll just feel shit about myself.
Yeah, but like that's like always. But you have that with Duolingo. Once you get far enough, but that's fine because that's the motivating factor.
Yes.
Why not? Why not challenge yourself instead of just trying to infinitely build a streak? Set yourself the challenge of I want to do a 10-day streak, and then after you finish that 10-day streak, don't worry about it for 2 days, and then start a new streak and say I want to start a 20-day streak.
Well, yeah, I've kind of tried things like that because I was sort of keeping a track of it because I've got a thing set up in my calendar where I can keep a track of it. And it was like, try and do it every 5 out of 7 days. But then I missed it. And then as soon as I miss it, I stopped caring.
Interesting. Understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I might just have to get myself a star chart, you know?
Yeah, literally that's what I mean. Star Trek would be perfect for this.
Because the stickers.
I was using Headspace yesterday and I tried one of their walking meditations and I'm never going back. I did a normal one today, but walking meditation worked so well for me. I was like, this is the best thing. Oh, it was beautiful.
Something I thought was really fascinating. The other day, I was like, oh, I need to do my Headspace. Oh, but like, I don't have time to do it. I don't have time. And I was like, well, I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to run through the meditation system on my own in my own head. And it won't be as good, but I'll just do it. And I did a 10-minute meditation on my own. And for some reason...
That's really good.
Yeah. And for some reason, I was actually more focused because I had to make sure that I couldn't just wander off with the fairies. I had to keep myself on track, which I thought was really interesting. And one of the... But yeah, I thought that was really interesting that I was like, oh, I don't have enough time with the whole process of getting out my phone. That I guess there was just too many steps and that like emotional barrier to get past of like, oh, I have to pick up my phone and turn it on and go to the app and pick the one I want to do was too overwhelming. But just sitting actually and doing it, I could do it. I don't know if that is a neurodivergent thing.
That's a pretty
that
ADHD
feels quite
thing,
ADHD.
That's a lack of executive function, Eleanor. I'm sorry. Like, do you remember a long time ago when we said, well, if one of us is ADHD, we're both ADHD. I am ADHD, therefore you have ADHD.
So one of the things that I did this week was I went through and it's American, so I don't know if they use the same thing here, but there's like a diagnostic thing where they have a list of things, and they're like, if you do this thing, and you do 5 of them as an adult, you're ADHD. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go through and I'm going to mark the ones that I definitely do in red, the ones that I'm not sure if I do in orange, and the ones that I do in green. Because my whole thing about not going for an ADHD diagnosis has been that I am concerned that I don't have a clear sense of whether or not I can focus on things. I don't know if my struggles to focus are normal or if they're worse than normal, because I'm such a perfectionist and I'm so bad at comparing myself to people that I have a very warped perception of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like for those kind of things where I genuinely can't tell, I'm going to mark them as orange. And if I've got 5 red things, then I should go for an ADHD diagnosis, because those are things I'm confident I do. And I have exactly 5. So, and then I also went through and checked it for childhood, and I also had exactly 5 for childhood that were red. Interestingly, a different 5.
Interesting.
But I don't think it's worth me going for an ADHD diagnosis until I move, because starting it here and then moving sounds like the worst idea in the world.
I don't think it's worth me getting an ADHD diagnosis because I already have the dyslexia one, and there's no... It's not like I'm going to get... It's not like they're going to give me 25 times 25% extra time if I'm ADHD as well. I'll just get 25% extra time, and like
Well, I'll
I
get
feel
it.
like the dyslexia is
Yeah.
already more of a like. I'm like, no, this is fine.
For me, I think I want it more as like a kind of justification for when I do things that are weird.
Yeah.
That I can be like, this is because I am this. It would just make me feel better about myself, I think. And because
I mean, I don't think you need the diagnosis for that. I think you can just like.
But I don't trust my own brain, so I don't believe that I have ADHD until I have that piece of paper.
Maybe talk to your therapist. Maybe your therapist can be like, I think you have ADHD as well, and then you can just accept it. Like,
I wouldn't. I think I still wouldn't. I want that external validation, and I appreciate that in itself is a problem that I need to work with, but like, yeah. So I would want that, and also like if you get an ADHD diagnosis, they offer you like specific counselling for ADHD and or medication, and I think I would be quite tempted to try medication because my brain is so loud.
I have no interest in medication. Oh, okay. My brain is occasionally loud.
I'm gonna send you a TikTok. I watched it and I was like, is not everyone's brain like this? So
I mean, do you mean like? Yeah, no. My brain feels loud maybe once a week.
My brain feels loud all the time.
Oh.
That's partly.
Yeah, you need meds then. Yeah.
Yeah, this is partly why I have a problem with like listening to podcasts and things, because it's a way of shutting up my brain.
Yeah. See, for me, I listen to music and stuff because it keeps my brain quiet. So it's not a necessity, because it's just sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't need to listen to music the whole time because it's just some other time my brain is loud, so I'll just put some music on then. I thought it was really interesting as well. It's like I was talking to someone, and I think the thing I hadn't appreciated is like when I get overstimulated, instead of going more hyper, I shut down, and I think that's really noticeable compared to other people who like. I feel like it makes my ADHD a lot less noticeable. Who don't know me well, because I'll just zone out. The people won't necessarily won't associate that with the ADHD, but it's the overstimulation and distraction. And so then I'm distracted, and then my brain just shuts down, and I like reboot, and I come back to the situation. I'm like, oh, okay, now I need to follow back into this conversation.
Sorry, I can't believe you just said reboot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I reboot.
Oh, do you have a final question for me? Because I've got a question, but I feel like it's an entire conversation. I feel like it'd be more fun to go over next week when I've got more thoughts.
No, I didn't really have a list of questions like you did. I just had I think we should talk about reward systems. So, yeah.
You're not as prepared as me, Eleanor.
No, when you were like, I've got a list of questions, I was like, good lord, I wrote down 2 words.
See, this was the second brain thing. I didn't know I had this list of questions until you called before the thing, and I was like loaded up the things like, oh, do I have questions? And I had questions, and I was like wild. Didn't know that was there. Like,
no, save your questions for next time.
Okay, the call is dying, so I can't want to do another cycle of the call dying. So I'm gonna do the outro, and if you're not here listening to me, we'll just make it work. This has been Teather Time, episode 3. I hope you've enjoyed.
She's doing the outro, and I'm just like, I can't hear anything you're saying.
That was what I was about to. I literally just said to the camera, I'm just gonna do the outro, but if you can't hear me because the call's dying and we just need to end the episode. But yeah.
Goodbye. Let's leave.
Yeah, this has been Teather Time, episode 3. New episodes drop at 7 p.m. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. By the time this goes up, Eleanor will have made an Instagram account for the podcast.
I meant to do it today.
Maybe not. Yeah. There'll be
I have a dissertation to write.